Let me ask you a question. Do you ever think to yourself, man, politicians and activists and really wealthy people keep treating the public education system like it's a really big guinea pig? I know I've thought the same thing, so let's talk about it, shall we? I'm not going to yell at you. I'm not going to drive off in a huff. I'm going to do my best to provide as many facts and as much logic as possible. Because we've all got questions. We just need to be a little better at thinking it through. Grad Nation started in 2010 through a network of some powerful groups. Alliance for Excellent Education, America's Promise Alliance, AT&T, Pure Edge, and the Reichs Foundation, or the Reichs Foundation, however you want to say it. What was their goal? Their goal was a 90% graduation rate by 2020. Now, they obviously have fallen very short, and they let us know that last year, and they were very disappointed in everyone other than themselves. But let's look at the rate of increase, shall we? You know, in 2011, the graduation rate was 79%. By the end of 2017, the rate had grown to 84.6%. And now that's what I like to call progress. But let's go ahead and look all the way back to 2001 when the rate was 71%. Now, over the course of 10 years before Grad Nation got into the mix, the rate had grown 8%. The following 6 years after Grad Nation stepped in, the rate had grown 5.6%. Do you see what I'm talking about? You see, much like every other bureaucratic scheme, you're not really helping. Now, I think we know why they got involved, which I'll address later. But first, the real problem is not why aren't more students graduating high school. The problem is, why aren't our students getting smarter over the decades? So every year, the National Assessment of Educational Progress, the NAEP, issues its annual Nations Report Card. And guess what? We're not doing very well. No, not at all. But you may be wondering, where did NAEP actually come from? Well, I'll tell you. The NAEP is a congressionally mandated project administered by the National Center for Education Statistics within the U.S. Department of Education and the Institute of Education Sciences. I love those little Russian dolls. Now, the report card shows the proficiency rating, or the lack thereof, for students in 4th, 8th, and 12th grade, and it covers various subjects. Now, obviously, again, we are not doing very well. Would you look at those scores? Would you look at them? Would you just look at them? Go ahead, look at them. Look at those scores. Would you look at them? Go ahead, look at them. Look at those scores. Terrible. Look at that history score. U.S. history, 12% proficiency rating for 12th graders. Wonderful. I love it. Now, speaking of history, even the history of our SAT scores, no matter how you try to manipulate them, shows declines in math, reading, and writing. Now, you may be thinking, Dustin, math, reading, and writing, those really aren't that important subjects. Well, whatever. Anyways, since 1971, the NAEP has been keeping track. And in 2012, they issued a 60-page report indicating how much progress, or the lack thereof, we've been making in reading and math. Boy, those 17-year-olds are really ready for college, I'd say. With so much information at our fingertips, the question is, why aren't we further along than we are? Why aren't we further along than we were in 1971? Now, I think the brilliant minds over there running the government education aren't nearly as bright as they think they are. So here are some things that we're doing that are not helping. Federal programs like No Child Left Behind and Every Student Succeeds. I'm going to go ahead and break this to you gently. Some children are going to get left behind, and not every student is going to succeed. But in defense of the NCLB, the No Child Left Behind Act, it could have helped, but no one really wanted to abide by those constraints. We can't have accountability. That's why we have unions. Second, this Grad Nation initiative is the height of grandstanding. Go ahead, read their reports. All they do is regurgitate what the NAEP reports. But They seem really interested in requiring, quote unquote, stronger accountability for non-traditional schools. Oh, you mean schools that perform better than public schools? Right. Third, how about we spend less money per student? You know, we spend more money per student than any other country on the planet, except for Luxembourg, with their mass population of 600,000. Now to the comparisons. Private schools just perform better. Take a look at these scores. Look at that. Would you look at that one? Look at that one. Can you imagine? Unbelievable. Look at this. Look at that. Oh, wow. Private schools are known for a couple of things. One, having higher standards in their curriculum. Two, for having rigid guidelines concerning student behavior. Now, I'm no mathematician, but I think there might be a correlation there. There's also less bureaucracy, so there's no government official hovering over you like bad news. Also, there aren't any unions in order to stifle innovation and ensure that the wrong people get placed on the school board. Now, regarding charter schools, I know if you look back at those charts, you'll see that the charter schools and the public schools are really neck and neck, but really, aren't they both public schools? Anyways, a recent study has shown that charter schools are way more cost-effective than public schools. And I know that is the antithesis of any government-run program, but I think we need more cost-effectiveness within government, especially being a taxpayer. So instead of stronger accountability for non-traditional schools, how about we have a little bit more accountability within the public schools? Another interesting item that you can check out on your own time is the school location. Suburban schools perform better than urban schools. Rural schools perform better than town schools. And by the way, you do know who makes the rules, right? Unions. Do you know the two largest unions in the country? That's right. They're teacher unions. Hello. And they play a massive role in what type of programs get instituted for your kids. Common Core, anyone? Lastly, let's look at the solutions. Here are some of the solutions that I think would actually help. The solution to the problem is less federal government, because we've already got enough bureaucracy with the state and local governments. The solution is not to rely on more federal spending, but to rely on the teachers to actually do their job well. Now, if they are a poor performing educator, and I think that this should be confirmed by fellow teachers and not simply by statistics, then it shouldn't take an act of Congress to terminate their contract, which is where unions come into play once again. The solution is to give parents a choice on where to send their kids to school. Don't force them to send them to a school where a good education is most likely not going to happen. Hence, the suburban to urban, the rural to town. And rest assured, teachers in the public schools will never, ever go for the voucher system. Why? Because that hinders their job security. And finally, the solution is to allow teachers and administrators to discipline students when they get out of line. School officials shouldn't be afraid of having a lawsuit presented to them just because they threaten a student with writing sentences. So remember, the education system is about educating students, not graduating them at any cost. I'm Dustin Bass, and I've been thinking it through.